Imagine waking up one morning only to realize that everything you worked so hard to build was taken away in the blink of an eye. The world you knew, the world you carefully crafted, is now unrecognizable. What would you do? Would you panic, scream in frustration, or feel defeated? This scenario might sound terrifying, but for Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, it was reality. His merchant ship sank, along with all his wealth. In a single moment, everything was gone. But Zeno didn't react like most would. Instead of spiraling into despair, he saw this catastrophe as an opportunity, a path that led him towards something greater: philosophy. Specifically Stoicism, a way of life that has survived centuries, not because it promises an easy life, but because it offers us the tools to navigate whatever life throws at us. Stoicism is built upon four foundational virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. These aren't abstract ideas but practical tools for everyday living. They guide us in understanding what we can control, in facing challenges with grace, in finding balance amid chaos, and in treating others with fairness. Today, in a world full of distractions, uncertainty, and injustice, these virtues are more relevant than ever. They aren't relics of the past, but living principles that can reshape how we approach life's toughest moments. Let's start with wisdom. Wisdom in Stoicism isn't about accumulating knowledge or mastering some intellectual pursuit. It's about knowing the difference between what we can control and what we can't. Think about how much time we spend worrying about things that are completely beyond our reach: the economy, other people's opinions, the weather. Stoicism teaches that this is wasted energy. The Stoics believe that the key to happiness lies in focusing solely on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses to the world around us. Consider Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. He ruled an empire, dealt with wars, plagues, and constant political intrigue. Yet, through it all, he remained composed. Why? Because he'd understood that he couldn't control external events, only how he responded to them. In his famous work Meditations, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." It's a simple but profound idea. We can't stop the storm, but we can decide how we will weather it. In today's world, wisdom helps us navigate the constant barrage of information and distractions. With social media, 24-hour news cycles, and the pressures of modern life, it's easy to get overwhelmed. But when we apply Stoic wisdom, we learn to filter out what doesn't matter. We stop reacting to every headline, every slight, and instead focus on our own actions and values. This kind of mental clarity isn't just a philosophical ideal, it's a survival skill for the modern world. And what about courage? When we think of courage, we often picture heroic acts of bravery, running into a burning building or standing up against oppression. While Stoicism certainly values this kind of courage, it also recognizes a quieter, more personal form of bravery. Courage is the strength to face whatever life throws at you, no matter how difficult or frightening it may be. It's about persistence, the ability to keep going when things get hard, and resisting the urge to give up or give in. For the Stoics, courage was not just about facing external challenges, but also about confronting the difficulties within ourselves. Seneca, one of the most famous Stoics, once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." This might sound dramatic, but think about the everyday battles we face: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of change. It takes courage to face these fears and move forward, especially when it would be easier to stay in our comfort zones. In modern life, courage often means having the strength to be vulnerable. It's the courage to say, "I don't know," or "I made a mistake." It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's not popular. Think about how many times you've avoided a tough conversation because it was easier to stay silent. Stoicism teaches us that real courage is doing what's necessary, even when it's uncomfortable or scary. It's about facing life head-on, with all its uncertainties and challenges, and acting decisively. Next is temperance, which might be the most misunderstood of the virtues. People often think of temperance as self-denial, but that's not quite right. In Stoic terms, temperance is about balance. It's the ability to enjoy life's pleasures without being consumed by them. In a world of excess, where we're constantly bombarded with ads telling us to buy more, eat more, and do more, temperance teaches us moderation. Epictetus, another great Stoic, reminds us that it's not what happens to us, but how we respond that matters. He famously said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." In today's consumer-driven world, this is a radical idea. We're told that happiness comes from acquiring more, but Stoicism flips this notion on its head. Happiness comes from wanting less. This doesn't mean we have to live like monks or renounce all material goods. Instead, Stoicism encourages us to find balance. It's about enjoying what we have without becoming attached to it. It's about understanding that material things, while nice, are fleeting. True contentment comes from within, from knowing that we are enough, regardless of what we have or don't have. Imagine a life where you're no longer chasing after the next big thing, whether it's a new car, a promotion, or even validation from others. That's the freedom that temperance offers. It's the ability to enjoy life's pleasures without being controlled by them. It's about having enough, and knowing that enough is all you need. Finally, we come to justice, perhaps the most outward-facing of the virtues. Justice in Stoicism isn't just about following the law or treating people fairly. It's about recognizing our shared humanity and acting in a way that benefits not just ourselves, but everyone around us. The Stoics believe that we are all connected, and that our actions should reflect this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bees." In other words, we are part of a larger whole, and we have a responsibility to contribute to the greater good. Justice isn't just about avoiding harm. It's about actively doing good, about making the world a better place, even in small ways. In today's divided world, justice can feel like a lofty goal, something that only activists or politicians can strive for. But Stoicism teaches us that justice is something we can all practice in our daily lives. It's about treating others with respect, listening to different perspectives, and standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Whether it's speaking out against injustice, being kind to a stranger, or simply being fair in your interactions with others, justice is something we can all practice every day. It's about recognizing that our actions matter, and that we have the power to make a positive impact on the world. Together, these four virtues, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, form the foundation of Stoicism. They aren't just abstract ideals to admire from a distance. They are practical tools for living a good life. They teach us how to navigate the challenges of the modern world with clarity, resilience, and grace. As we wrap up, I invite you to reflect on how these virtues can shape your own life. How can you practice wisdom by focusing on what you can control? How can you show courage in the face of fear or uncertainty? How can you find balance in a world of excess? And how can you practice justice by treating others with fairness and kindness? The path of the Stoic isn't always easy, but it offers us a way to live with purpose and integrity, no matter what life throws at us. Stoicism is not just an ancient philosophy confined to the dusty pages of history. It's a living, breathing guide for how to live a meaningful life today. The virtues of wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice are not lofty ideals, but practical tools we can apply every single day. When we talk about wisdom, we're talking about something far deeper than intellectual knowledge or cleverness. Wisdom in Stoicism is rooted in the ability to distinguish what is within our control from what is not. It's the foundation of the Stoic mindset, and without it, the other virtues crumble. Think about how often we let ourselves be consumed by things we can't change. We worry about what other people think of us, whether the economy will take a downturn, or if it's going to rain tomorrow. These are things that are entirely outside of our control, yet we pour so much emotional energy into them. The Stoics understood that this kind of thinking only leads to frustration and unhappiness. Instead, they taught that true peace comes from focusing on what we can control: our thoughts, actions, and responses to the events around us. Wisdom, in this sense, is a kind of mental clarity. It's the ability to navigate through the noise of everyday life and focus on what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoics, often reflected on this in his journal. He reminded himself to focus on what was within his power, to stop worrying about the opinions of others, and to act according to his own values. For him, wisdom wasn't just an abstract concept, it was a daily practice. In today's world, where we are constantly bombarded by news, social media, and other distractions, wisdom is more important than ever. Every day, we are faced with countless decisions and distractions. Should I respond to that email now? Should I get upset because my friend didn't text me back? Should I be worried about what's happening halfway across the world? When we apply Stoic wisdom, we learn to pause and ask ourselves, is this something I can control? If the answer is no, we can let it go. If the answer is yes, we can take action. This simple shift in thinking can bring immense peace and clarity. This brings us to courage. In Stoic philosophy, courage isn't just about bravery in the face of danger. It's about facing all of life's challenges head-on. Courage means the willingness to confront our fears, endure pain, and persist through adversity. It's about doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. Seneca, another great Stoic, believed that courage was essential for living a virtuous life because without it, we wouldn't be able to practice any of the other virtues. For many of us, the challenges we face today may not be as dramatic as those of the ancient Stoics, but they are no less real. Whether it's standing up to a difficult boss, making a life-changing decision, or simply pushing through a tough day, courage is what helps us move forward. It's about resisting the urge to take the easy way out, to avoid conflict or discomfort. Stoics believe that real courage lies not just in grand gestures, but in the small, everyday acts of perseverance. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoic courage is its emphasis on persistence. The Stoics knew that life would throw obstacles our way, but they also believed that we have the power to overcome them if we remain steadfast. They had a saying, "The obstacle is the way." Instead of seeing challenges as things to be avoided, they saw them as opportunities to grow stronger. This mindset is especially relevant today, in a world where we are often told that happiness comes from avoiding discomfort. Stoicism teaches the opposite, that true happiness comes from facing life's difficulties and emerging stronger on the other side. Temperance, the third Stoic virtue, is often misunderstood. Some people hear the word and think it means living a life of deprivation or self-denial. But that's not what temperance is about. In Stoicism, temperance means moderation. It's about finding balance in life, avoiding extremes, and cultivating self-control. Temperance allows us to enjoy the good things in life without being consumed by them. It's the virtue that helps us say no when we need to, and it helps us resist the pull of instant gratification. In today's world, temperance is more relevant than ever. We live in a culture that encourages excess, excessive consumption, excessive work, and even excessive entertainment. We're constantly bombarded with advertisements telling us we need to buy more, eat more, or achieve more to be happy. But Stoicism teaches that real happiness doesn't come from indulging in every desire or achieving every goal. In fact, happiness often comes from learning to want less, from being content with what we have. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, understood this deeply. He taught that our desires often enslave us, not just in a physical sense, but mentally and emotionally. When we constantly crave more, whether it's material possessions, recognition, or pleasure, we lose our freedom. But when we practice temperance, we regain control over our own minds. By limiting our desires and living simply, we free ourselves from the constant pursuit of more. Imagine a life where you're no longer driven by the need for more money, more status, more possessions. Instead, you're able to appreciate what you already have. This is the freedom that temperance offers. It's not about giving up the things you enjoy, but about enjoying them in moderation, without being attached to them. Temperance helps us find balance in a world that often pushes us toward extremes. This balance extends beyond material things. It applies to our emotions and behaviors as well. Temperance helps us manage our anger, our impulses, and our reactions to the world around us. In Stoicism, the goal is not to eliminate emotions, but to keep them in check, to ensure they don't control us. When we practice temperance, we learn to pause before reacting, to think before speaking, and to act with intention rather than impulsiveness. In this way, temperance is the key to living a life of peace and harmony, both with ourselves and with others. This brings us to the final virtue, Justice. Justice is perhaps the most outward-facing of the Stoic virtues because it concerns how we treat others. In Stoicism, justice is not just about legal fairness or following the law, it's about living in a way that respects the inherent dignity of all people. The Stoics believe that we are all connected and that we have a duty to treat others with fairness, kindness, and respect. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, constantly reminded himself that we are all part of a larger community and that our actions should contribute to the common good. He believed that justice was not just a legal obligation, but a moral one, that we should always strive to do what is right, not because we fear punishment, but because it is the right thing to do. In today's world, justice can seem like a complex and sometimes overwhelming issue. We're confronted with injustices on a global scale, from inequality to systemic discrimination. While these are important issues, Stoicism teaches us that justice begins with our own actions. It starts with how we treat the people in our everyday lives, our friends, family, co-workers, and even strangers. Are we fair in our dealings with others? Do we treat people with respect, regardless of their background or status? Are we willing to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult? Justice in Stoicism is also about recognizing our shared humanity. The Stoics believe that we are all part of a universal community, and that no one is truly separate from another. This means that when we act justly, we are not only doing good for others, but for ourselves as well. Our happiness is tied to the well-being of others, and by practicing justice, we contribute to a better, more harmonious world. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoic justice is its emphasis on action. It's not enough to simply believe in fairness or kindness. We must actively practice it. Whether it's standing up for someone who is being treated unfairly, offering help to those in need, or simply being kind and respectful in our daily interactions, justice is something we do, not just something we think about. Together, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice form the foundation of Stoicism. These virtues are not abstract ideals, but practical guides for how to live a good life. They help us navigate the challenges of the modern world with clarity, resilience, and grace. Each virtue supports the others, creating a balanced and harmonious approach to life. As you reflect on these virtues, consider how they can shape your own life. How can you apply wisdom by focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you cannot? How can you show courage in the face of fear or uncertainty? How can you practice temperance by finding balance and moderation in a world that constantly pushes us toward excess? And how can you embody justice by treating others with fairness and kindness? The Stoic path is not always easy, but it offers us a way to live with purpose and integrity, no matter what life throws at us. These virtues guide us in making better decisions, in facing challenges with strength, and in building a life of meaning and fulfillment. Stoicism teaches us that life is unpredictable, full of challenges, and often beyond our control. But through the practice of wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, we can navigate life's uncertainties with grace and resilience. We can find peace in knowing that, while we cannot control everything, we can control how we respond. And in that response, we find our true power. So, as you move forward in life, remember the teachings of the Stoics. When you face difficulties, ask yourself, what can I control? When you feel afraid, remember that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to persist despite it. When you feel overwhelmed by the noise and excess of modern life, remember that temperance offers you the freedom of balance. And when you encounter injustice, remember that you have the power to make a difference, no matter how small. By practicing these virtues, you can live a life of purpose, peace, and fulfillment. And in doing so, you not only improve your own life, but contribute to the betterment of the world around you. This is the true power of Stoicism, the ability to live a life of meaning, regardless of the circumstances. Stoicism provides us with a framework to approach life's uncertainties with a calm and composed mind. As we explore the four cardinal virtues of this ancient philosophy, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, we begin to understand how these timeless principles can guide us through the chaos of our modern lives. Let's take a closer look at how these virtues are not only relevant today but can fundamentally reshape how we live and interact with the world around us. Wisdom. as taught by the Stoics, begins with understanding the dichotomy of control. This concept is deceptively simple yet profound. Some things are within our control and some are not. Recognizing the difference between the two is the first step toward achieving a peaceful and content life. Most of our suffering, according to the Stoics, comes from trying to control things that are outside our power, like the actions of others, the past, or even the weather. Picture this: you've planned a long-awaited vacation, but on the day of departure, a storm hits, canceling your flights. You have two choices. You can get upset, let the frustration ruin your day, and spend hours on the phone trying to change things you can't control. Or you can accept the situation, shift your focus to what's within your power, how you respond, and find another way to make the day enjoyable. This is the wisdom Stoicism teaches, recognizing what we can influence and letting go of the rest. This idea isn't just about reacting to life's minor inconveniences, though. It's a principle that can shape how we approach our careers, relationships, and even our ambitions. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire, knew that he couldn't control the outcome of wars or the behavior of his political rivals. But he could control how he led, how he treated others, and how he maintained his moral integrity. His journals, which became the famous Meditations, are full of reminders to himself to focus on what he could control and to meet everything else with calm acceptance. In today's world, this mindset is more important than ever. We are constantly bombarded with information and opinions, much of which is designed to provoke a reaction. Social media, in particular, tempts us to argue with strangers, to worry about our image, or to chase after validation from others. But wisdom, as the Stoics saw it, tells us that none of these things are truly within our control. We can't control what others think, how many likes we get, or what the latest trends are. What we can control is how we engage with the world and how we direct our energy. By applying Stoic wisdom, we learn to focus on what truly matters: our own actions, our own character, and our own peace of mind. Courage, the next Stoic virtue, often conjures images of warriors on the battlefield. And while physical courage is certainly valued, the Stoics placed an even higher importance on moral and emotional courage. Courage, to the Stoics, meant facing life's inevitable challenges with resilience and integrity, even when fear and uncertainty loom large. It's about continuing to act according to your principles, even when the easier path is to give up or compromise your values. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, believed that life itself was an ongoing test of our courage. He famously said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." In other words, much of the hardship we face is self-inflicted, stemming from our fear of failure or discomfort. Courage, in the Stoic sense, isn't about never feeling fear. It's about recognizing that fear and choosing to move forward anyway. Take, for example, the decision to pursue a major life change, a new career, moving to a new city, or even ending a toxic relationship. These choices require courage, not just because they involve risk, but because they force us to confront our fears. What if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? What if I'm not strong enough? The Stoic approach to courage is to acknowledge these fears but not to be ruled by them. Stoicism teaches that it's better to face the possibility of failure than to live a life defined by fear and inaction. Modern life presents us with countless opportunities to practice this kind of courage. Whether it's speaking up for ourselves, challenging an injustice, or simply stepping outside our comfort zone, the Stoic virtue of courage reminds us that facing our fears is not just about survival, it's about thriving. It's about taking on life's challenges head-on, confident in the knowledge that even if we fail, we have the strength to endure and grow from the experience. Temperance, the third virtue, offers a counterbalance to the excesses that so often dominate our lives. In a world driven by consumerism, instant gratification, and indulgence, temperance is the virtue of self-restraint, moderation, and balance. It's the ability to enjoy life's pleasures without being consumed by them, and to maintain control over our desires rather than allowing them to control us. The Stoics believed that moderation was key to a happy and fulfilling life. They taught that true contentment doesn't come from having everything you want, but from wanting less. Epictetus famously said, Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few ones. This isn't a call for asceticism or self-denial, but a reminder that the pursuit of endless pleasure and material gain often leads to dissatisfaction. In fact, the more we chase after external things, whether it's wealth, status, or physical pleasures, the more we find ourselves trapped in a cycle of desire and discontent. In today's society, this message is more relevant than ever. We live in a world of abundance, where we are constantly encouraged to consume more, do more, and be more. But Stoicism teaches that happiness doesn't come from excess, it comes from balance. Temperance helps us find that balance by reminding us to enjoy life's pleasures in moderation, without becoming dependent on them. It's about savoring what we have, rather than constantly seeking more. Consider how temperance might apply to modern habits like social media use, eating, or spending money. It's easy to get caught up in a cycle of overindulgence, where we binge on content, food, or shopping without thinking about the long-term effects. But when we practice temperance, we learn to pause and reflect before we act. We ask ourselves, do I really need this? Will this bring me lasting satisfaction, or is it just a momentary desire? In this way, temperance helps us live more mindfully and intentionally, cultivating a sense of peace and contentment that can be found in material things. Finally, we arrive at justice, perhaps the most outward-facing of the Stoic virtues. Justice, for the Stoics, was about more than just legal fairness or following the rules. It was about living in harmony with others, recognizing our shared humanity, and acting in ways that benefit not just ourselves, but the broader community. Justice calls on us to treat others with respect, kindness, and fairness, regardless of their status or background. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote extensively about the importance of justice. He believed that we are all part of a larger whole, and that our actions should contribute to the common good. What is not good for the beehive, he wrote, cannot be good for the bee. In other words, we are all interconnected, and what benefits one of us ultimately benefits all of us. In today's divided world, where injustice and inequality are rampant, the Stoic commitment to justice is more important than ever. Stoicism teaches that we all have a responsibility to stand up for what is right, to act with integrity, and to contribute to the well-being of others. This doesn't mean we have to become activists or politicians. It simply means that we should strive to live in a way that reflects our values and promotes fairness and kindness in our interactions with others. Justice in Stoicism also reminds us that our individual actions, no matter how small, have the power to make a difference. Whether it's being kind to a stranger, standing up for someone who is being treated unfairly, or simply practicing empathy in our daily lives, justice is something we can all practice. It's about recognizing that our actions matter, and that we have the power to create positive change in the world around us. Together, these four virtues, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, form the foundation of Stoicism. They offer us a roadmap for living a good life, one that is rooted in purpose, integrity, and resilience. By practicing these virtues, we can navigate the challenges of modern life with clarity and grace, finding peace and fulfillment in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. As you reflect on these virtues, consider how they can shape your own life. How can you apply wisdom by focusing on what you can control? How can you show courage in the face of fear or uncertainty? How can you practice temperance by finding balance in a world that encourages excess? And how can you embody justice by treating others with fairness and kindness? The path of the Stoic is not always easy, but it offers us a way to live with purpose and integrity, no matter what life throws at us. These virtues guide us in making better decisions, in facing challenges with strength, and in building a life of meaning and fulfillment. Through wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, we can live a life that not only benefits ourselves, but also contributes to the greater good. And in doing so, we find true happiness, not in external success, but in the peace that comes from living in alignment with our values. The Stoics believed that living in accordance with these four virtues, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, was the key to achieving a good and meaningful life. These virtues are not separate from one another, but are deeply interconnected, forming a complete guide to how we can navigate the ups and downs of life. By practicing them consistently, we cultivate a sense of inner peace, resilience, and purpose, which allows us to face whatever challenges come our way. Wisdom teaches us to focus on what we can control, letting go of the rest. It provides us with the mental clarity to understand the difference between what is important and what is not. It reminds us that our time and energy are best spent on improving ourselves and our actions, rather than worrying about external factors we cannot influence. This principle alone, when truly embraced, can transform how we view our lives and the world around us. Courage shows us that fear and difficulty are inevitable parts of life, but they do not need to paralyze us. By facing these challenges head-on, we grow stronger, more resilient, and more confident in our ability to overcome adversity. Courage isn't about the absence of fear. It's about acting despite it, staying true to our values even when the outcome is uncertain. It encourages us to persist in the face of obstacles and to resist the temptation to give up when the path becomes difficult. Temperance offers us balance in a world that often pulls us toward extremes. It teaches us to find satisfaction in moderation, to enjoy life's pleasures without becoming enslaved by them. Through temperance, we learn to control our desires, manage our impulses, and maintain a sense of proportion in all things. It's about savoring what we have, rather than constantly yearning for more. By practicing temperance, we can avoid the excesses that lead to stress, dissatisfaction, and even self-destruction. Justice reminds us of our place in the broader community of humanity. It calls on us to act with kindness, fairness, and integrity in all our dealings with others. It's the virtue that connects us to our fellow human beings, guiding us to act not out of self-interest but for the greater good. Justice teaches us that our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves but for the people and the world around us. By practicing justice, we contribute to a more compassionate, fair, and harmonious society. When these four virtues are applied together, they create a powerful framework for living a meaningful life. They help us navigate the challenges of modern life with clarity, strength, and grace. They guide us in our decisions, helping us make choices that align with our values and lead to a sense of fulfillment. They allow us to face life's difficulties with resilience and to enjoy life's pleasures with gratitude and balance. Ultimately, the Stoic virtues show us that happiness doesn't come from external success or material wealth. It comes from living in alignment with our values, from cultivating inner strength and peace, and from contributing to the well-being of others. This is the essence of Stoicism, the belief that by practicing wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, we can live a life of purpose, integrity, and fulfillment, no matter what circumstances we find ourselves in. As you go forward, consider how you can integrate these virtues into your own life. Each day presents new opportunities to practice wisdom by focusing on what you can control, to show courage by facing your fears, to exercise temperance by finding balance, and to embody justice by treating others with fairness and kindness. The path of the Stoic is not always easy, but it is a path that leads to a life of true happiness. A happiness that is not dependent on external success, but is rooted in the strength of your character. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, the teachings of Stoicism offer us a way to find peace and purpose. By focusing on what we can control, by facing life's challenges with courage, by practicing moderation and balance, and by treating others with fairness and compassion, we can live a life that is not only fulfilling but also meaningful. This is the ultimate goal of Stoicism: to live a good life, one that is in harmony with nature and with the world around us, a life that is guided by wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. As we conclude this exploration of Stoicism's core virtues, ask yourself, how can I live with more wisdom? How can I face my fears with more courage? How can I find balance through temperance? And how can I contribute to the greater good through justice? The answers to these questions are not just philosophical musings. They are the keys to living a life of fulfillment, resilience, and peace. And that is the true power of Stoicism: the ability to navigate life's uncertainties with grace, purpose, and integrity. Stoicism may be an ancient philosophy, but its wisdom is timeless. In a world that often feels out of control, Stoicism reminds us that we always have control over one thing: ourselves. And in that control lies the path to a life well lived.